Thank you so much for joining the We Don't Play podcast show today, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing fabulously, Favor. How are you? I want to thank you for having me here.
Thanks for being here. You know, it's so great that you're here to tell us about, holidays and how people should prepare for a foolproof. When I hear foolproof, I think I'm listening to full capacity. I'm hearing sold out. Yes. I'm hearing decked out. I'm hearing all the, everything. The table is ready. Tell us about you, how you started, and how did we get to this point today?
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your podcast today. How this all started, as a little girl, helping my grandmother cook in the kitchen, having fun, rolling out pie dough. She used to always give me the scraps to practice. And, I used to use my little fingers to crimp the edges of a pie. And, that's where my love of food grew. And at some point, I became a registered dietitian. I wanted to learn more about food and how it nourished our bodies. So I had this love of food and baking, cooking and baking. And then I had this career as a registered dietitian. And just recently I decided, I need to marry the two. I want to show people how to cook good, but I also want to teach people how they can eat those good things and stay healthy. So that's how the concept of foolproof baking came about. It came about wanting to share information, but also while I was teaching cooking classes, which I do now, I saw that a lot of people were overwhelmed. We see things on social media, we see perfect plates and these perfect table settings. And I found that people really didn't feel like they could do it. So I show in my cooking classes and in my baking classes that yes, you can. So I try to take the stress away. I take those feelings of, being overwhelmed. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today and your audience. Those tips and strategies.
Thank you so much. I feel like these strategies are important for people to apply because it's all about testing, especially when you're cooking or baking, you're testing. You want to make sure that it's the right portion, it's the right amount. And because people are very sensitive to how they eat, how have you been able to connect with people and inform them despite their ways of eating, their quantities, how they even know what to eat? How have you been able to equip them with that knowledge so that they also unlearn and they can relearn too?
All right, so let me, I know that you're interviewing me, Favor, but let me ask you a question. For this upcoming holiday, are you cooking or are you going to be a guest?
Oh, I'm going to be a guest.
You're going to be a guest?
Yeah, I love cooking, but this year I'm going to be a guest.
Okay, well, the tips that I'm about to share, I want you to share with your host. I want you to send them this podcast. Everyone is listening. If you are a guest, I want you to send them this podcast link because I'm going to be giving you some tips that you don't necessarily see on Google. These are 30 years of me cooking, and more than 30 years of me, because it went back to me being a little girl, of me cooking and baking. These are tips that I wish that 20-something-year-old Lisa knew. That Lisa that was stressed out and overwhelmed and wanting to live up to the family name, because I come from a family of great cooks and bakers. So these are the strategies that I want you to share with your host.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, are you ready for me to start sharing, Favor?
I'm ready. I think they're nervous.
No. no, don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. This is what this podcast is about. I'm gonna share tips with you so you can stay organized, so you don't have to feel like you're like in this chaotic space. And most of all, something that happened to me, I was doing so much cooking and hostessing and cleaning that I wasn't having as much fun as my guests. And at some point, I was just like, everyone's in the living room, they're having a good time. I'm in the kitchen, like I want to be out there with them, because that's really what the holidays are all about. Spending time, having, making memories with your family and your guests. So I'm going to get started with the ultimate guide to a foolproof holiday. And this is my first tip. Finalize your menu and take inventory of what's in your refrigerator and what's in your pantry ahead of time. If you can, do it at least a week ahead of time. Look at your recipes. Make a list of all the ingredients that each recipe needs. And again, compare it to what you already have. This can help you save on, like running back and forth to the market. This can also save you, and I have to share a story with you, not being caught having to buy $10 mayonnaise at the 7-Eleven. That happened to me one time. I ran out of something and I had to go to like 7-Eleven or Wawa to buy the smallest jar of what it probably would have only cost me $3 for a bigger jar at the market. So don't do that. Or I've even before, I think once or twice, had to ring my neighbor's door because I ran out of sugar. So look at what you have and, write out a list. So that's my first tip. My second tip, if you are thinking about trying out a new recipe, test that recipe out ahead of time. Do a trial run. Again, I have a story to share with you. There are lots of times when, we see a recipe and we're ready to make it. And if you decide to do it the day of, you realize, like, wait a minute, this recipe said it was only supposed to take 30 minutes. This is taking me an hour and a half. And that's because a lot of times recipes don't take into account prep time, chopping onions, things like that. They're test kitchens. They have chefs to do all that kind of stuff. So they're just assembling things. So make sure, if you are going to try a new recipe, test it out ahead of time so you can figure out the time it takes you to actually make it. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, make sure that you have a detailed shopping list. We went over that. And also keep timing in mind. You don't want to last minute shop when stores might be at their busiest. So, and if you are out there last minute shopping, take advantage of going later in the evening when the crowds in the stores have died down, and also think about the fact that some things that you might want might be sold out. So try to shop ahead of time if you can. So that's tip number 3. And also, I forgot to say, take advantage of online food shopping, and have your groceries delivered to you. That will also save you time and you won't have to be out there in those crowds. And I'll also share you another market tip. Sometimes you might have to venture outside of your community. There was one New Year's where I was preparing collard greens, and I always use my grandmother's recipe. And I could not find smoked turkey butts. And every market I went in my area did not have smoked turkey butts. I live in an area where there's lots of Black people, but there's also a good mix of white people. So I decided where I worked at was a predominantly white area. And I thought to myself, why don't I try and see if they have smoked turkey butts at their market? They had a fridge full of smoked turkey butts. So I, kind of learned from that. If there's something that's, like smoked turkey butts for collard greens or for vegetables, if they're sold out in your area, you might want to venture out further outside of your community. And in this case, not just your area, but your community in terms of race, your community. So there's a little story there. My next tip, set up your prep space and make room in your refrigerator. Keeping your kitchen free of clutter will help you stay calm when you cook. When my kitchen, when dishes and pots and pans are all over the place, it makes me feel stressed out. So take the time ahead of the holidays, clean your kitchen, organize your prep space, clear the countertops. If there are appliances that you don't use, put them in a box, tuck them away, organize your supplies, and make sure that you have space to use your countertop so that you can cook. Also, go in your refrigerator, get that organized, throw away stuff. That old jar of pickles in the back that has probably expired anyway. Toss that stuff so that you can freeze up space for your turkey, and for everything else. Also, if you need, get a big cooler, and use that to keep things that aren't temperature sensitive, like drinks or some side dishes. I even use our sunroom, like the back porch out in the back, to keep, drinks, because they can stay cold out there and it doesn't take up space in my kitchen. So that's tip number 4. Tip number 5, prep ahead and save time. What do I mean by that? If you are making green beans, blanch and trim them ahead of time. If you are making mashed potatoes or sweet potatoes, you can peel and cut them ahead of the holiday. You can peel and cut them 2 days before. If there's any dish that like any dips or, that tastes better the next day, or if you're making like a fall salad, make the salad dressing ahead of time. If you're using toasted nuts in a recipe, toast them ahead of time, put them in a Ziploc bag, tuck them away. If you are using fresh herbs, chop them up. If you're making herb butter, prepare that herb butter ahead of time. Green bean casseroles, making candy sweet potatoes are, to me, like the perfect example of a dish that can be prepared ahead of time. You might not put it all together and assembled in the oven until the day of, but the individual components can be prepped ahead of time. So that's another tip. Under prepping ahead of time, you can make your stock ahead of time. You could do that several days ahead of time. I have stock in my freezer. I'm all ready to go. You can use that stock for gravy, for stuffing, and if you're making any fall soups. If you're baking your pie, if you're baking pies, you could bake those early. Pumpkin pie, apple pie, those can be baked the day before and kept at room temperature. That leaves your oven free for other things. If you're making your own dough, you can make that ahead of time and freeze it. I've done that before also. If you're making homemade rolls, you could prep the dough and freeze that also, and then bake it the day of. Thaw and bake it the day of. What I found in my cooking classes is that many people want to make things, themselves. They want their dishes to be homemade, but they don't do it because they feel intimidated. They feel like they don't have time. So if you follow the tips that I've given you, you will have the time to make these dishes the way you would like to. So I wanted to share that also. If you are going to be marinating any meats or brining them, do those the night before. That gives the chance for the meat to really take on those flavors and really soak into the meat. This is one of my favorite tips. Set your table ahead of time. Don't wait till the day of. Set it 2 days before, 3 days before. You can always turn your plates over. You can always wrap the utensils, so they're not collecting dust that's in the air. So that frees you up for food prep. So set your table days ahead, or at the very least, the night ahead. And that's something that you could get a family member to do, or a friend. People always say, can I do something to help? Don't say no. Let them help you. Have them come and set your table. Tip number 6 or 7, I might have lost track of it. Consider how you're going to cook your turkey. Instead of making a traditional oven roasted turkey, think about deep frying it. That saves you time. Think about spatchcocking your turkey. That's where you remove the backbone, and that's it's not like it's a whole complicated process, but, especially if you use a butcher, they can do it for you. Spatchcocking allows for faster cooking and more even cooking, so you don't have to worry about your meat drying out. Consider using a slow cooker or an electric roaster. An electric roaster can free up your oven for other dishes that you need to cook. And slow cookers are great for making something like mashed potatoes, or even keeping your gravy warm the day of a holiday. So, because you want warm gravy, right, Favor? You don't want cold, clumpy gravy. You want your gravy warm.
Exactly.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying exactly. You don't want that cold.
Yeah, you want that gravy to be warm that's going on your turkey. And that actually helps to warm up your meat instead of reheating it and drying it out. Also, that's also a good tip for stock. You can keep your stock in a small, they have the small slow cookers too. Also to help prevent your meat from drying out, you just ladle a little bit of your hot stock over your meat. Let's see. Number 7, take a look at your cooking tools. Focus on what's essential to all the recipes that you're going to be cooking. So, for example, my digital meat thermometer, I use that to check to make sure that my turkey, my prime rib, my chicken, whatever I'm cooking, that it's come to proper temperature so that it's not drying out. Also, I use my food processor. So instead of me hand cutting onions and celery and things like that, I use my food processor to do the job. If you don't have these things, like the food processor in particular, if you have a family member or a friend that has one, ask to borrow it. You don't have to spend money on something that you might not use all of the time. You also might not want that extra appliance cluttering up your counter. So you might just want to borrow it. And of course, check for those things for any Black Friday sales or any holiday sales. You might be able to get one at after the holiday at a really good price. The next one, Tip number 8, don't overcomplicate your dessert. If you're really, really overwhelmed, take the pressure off. Order a pie from your local bakery, or a cake, or a tart, or decide on making a no-bake cheesecake, or a no-bake dessert, a banana pudding or something like that. You can buy things, like I mentioned, a cake or a pie from a bakery. Get it from your market. You get it from one of the bigger clubs. And you can add your own personal touches to it, like fresh fruit or a little whipped cream. No one has to know. Ditch the box that it came in. No one has to know that you got it from the market. And presentation goes a long way. Put it in a nice dish or on a nice cake plate, and serve it that way. So that's my tip for desserts. I'm sorry, Favor. I was going to give a few final tips.
Okay.
Yeah. Sharpen your knives. Dull knives are dangerous knives. There are stores like Sur La Table and Kitchen stores that can sharpen them for you. Make sure that you calibrate your thermometer so you don't wind up with dry turkey or dry ham. I mentioned that I love my OXO or OXO, I don't know how you say it, that beeps when my meat is done. And get your oven calibrated if you notice uneven cooking. You might have a hot spot, and something like that can be an easy fix. My last tip is to, not get overwhelmed by meals that, because you still got to eat leading up to the holidays. Don't get overwhelmed by, cooking all of those meals leading up to the holiday. Pull out frozen meals. I especially focus on making larger batches and freezing some food leading up to the holiday, so that we're not ordering out all the time. But if need be, we got to grab a pizza the night before because I'm already cooking and prepping a lot, but doing a lot. I do that. I keep stuff to make sandwiches. I'll make a slow cooker meal or a sheet pan meal in an instant. So I also wanted to share that. Wow. That was my last tip, Favor.
Thank you, Lisa. This is so great. I feel like now people can get ready for their evergreen cooking, for their holiday cooking, and anything that you even mentioned, especially like chopping things up, preparing the table for any event, even if it's for just a regular dinner you're having on a regular day, but you're preparing ahead of time so that you can save time for even the family and the loved ones that you're planning for. So this is so, so good. Wow. Thank you, Lisa.
You're so welcome, Favor. Again, be in a moment with your family and friends. Enjoy the food. Enjoy spending time with them, because really, that's what the holiday is all about. So I hope you I hope you enjoyed this foolproof guide.
Yes, I did. I'm sure they did too. How can people connect with you if they want to work with you, they want to know how they can even just take a few tips, a page out of your book, and learn from you so they can be better? What options do they have available?
Yes, you can go to my page. I'm at foolproofbaking.co. That's not a misspell. It's foolproofbaking.co. I have a website there. You can see my classes. I have links to the articles and the recipes that I talked about. Everything is there. And if there's not something there, make sure to email me if there's something that you would like to see.
Awesome. That's so good. Thank you, Lisa, for joining us on the We Don't Play podcast show. And we can't wait to bring you back very soon.
Oh, thank you so much, Favor. Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays, guys.